Good evening, and welcome to this public forum for the candidates who are running for election to the Coralville City Council. I'm Linda Malloy. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Johnson County, and I will be your moderator this evening. This event is being sponsored not only by the League of Women Voters, but also by the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition and the Coralville Food Pantry. The forum will be, as it has been in the past, rebroadcast on 3 public, educational, and government channels in Iowa City, Coralville, and North Liberty. And you would have to check your own schedules or their websites to know when those broadcasts will be scheduled. As many of you already are aware, the League of Women Voters is a voluntary or volunteer organization open to anyone over the age of 16. We are a nonpartisan group. We neither support nor oppose any party or any candidate. We do take positions, though, and we act on selected issues which members have studied and agreed upon. And one of our main purposes is to, of course, encourage people to be informed citizen participants in government. Consistent with that nonpartisan policy, any campaign literature that these candidates have available would be outside the room on a table that we've provided for them, because we ask that there be no campaign materials in the forum, no buttons, no signs, or literature to be worn or distributed. There will be a standard format for this evening. After the candidates have been introduced, they will each have 2 minutes for an opening statement or remarks. I will then pose a first question for them that has been provided by the League of Women Voters. Then there will be 1 question from the Coralville Food Pantry, and there will be 1 from the Affordable Housing Coalition. Each candidate after that will have 1 minute to respond after their opening 2 minutes to the questions, the ones that we ask and then the ones that would be coming from the audience, because you will have an opportunity to provide questions for them as well. You can provide a question for 1 candidate or more than 1, or for all of them. And we will have leaguers that are standing around behind you, audience, with papers and pencils so that you can ask for a way to put your question in writing, and then they'll bring it up here to me. Again, those audience questions would have a 1-minute response time. We do have a timekeeper here in the front row, a league member, and she has little signs to tell you how much time you have for your opening remarks, and then when you're getting close to the end and when you've used up your time. And if you keep going, when you see the stop sign, I might have to use my former 5th grade teacher voice and intervene. Okay, there we go. If your questions that you submit to us are not addressed, we do encourage you to contact the candidate that you wanted to address that question to, or all of the candidates, directly to them after this event. Also, what I will do as a moderator, in order to get as many questions asked as possible so that you can hear your candidates, I may need to combine some questions together that relate to the same issue so that we can get to them. Now, you need to remember that the views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not the League of Women Voters or the Food Pantry or the Housing Coalition. And all viable candidates have been invited to participate this evening in this event. Now, I'd like to introduce the candidates to you, and they are way to my far left. We have Cindy Riley. Next to her, we have Lori Goodrich. Next to her, we have Marion Timmer Hackert, then Megan Foster, Tom Gill, and Elizabeth Denschel. And I'm so glad that they have all agreed to take their time to be here and to talk to you. This isn't an easy thing to do. Public speaking rates above death as something that people do not want to do and are fearful of. Okay, let's start then. Oh, I'm going to rotate who gets to go first. Okay, and we're going to start down there at the far left with Cindy, and you get to make your 2-minute opening statement, Cindy. Thank you.
Okay. All right, well, thank you everyone for being here tonight. Thanks to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this, and thank you for Linda for participating. So first, I do want to say I'm actually a member of the League of Women Voters, so for full disclosure, I haven't seen any of the information that we're going to have tonight, but I am an active member in the League. So it's a great organization, and I encourage anyone who wants to get involved to come out and participate. So I have a long history in Coralville. So I actually grew up on a farm just outside of town here, but I went to Northwest Junior High. I went to West High School. So I've seen Coralville all the years that I've been around here. I've really seen where it was back in the 70s, and I've seen where it's come to today. And I do give the people in Coralville, the leadership of Coralville, a lot of credit for bringing it where it was in the 70s to where it is today, because the progress has been tremendous, and it is very welcome progress. So after I got out of high school, I got my degree in computer science and in economics, and I went into business. So I did spend the next 30 years traveling across the U.S. doing a variety of roles in business, a lot of it in technology, some of it in business management, some of it in sales and marketing. So I have a broad business background. A few years ago, I decided corporate was enough. I'm coming back home to Coralville, and I've been here now for the last 4 or 5 years. So I love the state, I love the city, and I have a few objectives I'll just do quickly. Financial stability, of course, is very important in the city of Coralville today. So that will be the top. We need business development. We need to keep moving the city forward, but we need to look at that in a very responsible manner. We also need to promote affordable housing and affordable child care. We never want to overlook that component of the community. And I also want to make Coralville a very healthy place to live. I'm a cyclist. I'm an active person. I'd like people to get out on the bike paths, be outside, open areas, park areas. So thank you very much today.
Lori?
Well, thank you to the library, the League, and all of you in attendance. As a longtime resident of Coralville, I embrace the task of being an active member on Coralville City Council. And I count it a privilege to give back to the community that has provided so many opportunities to our family, as well as all the families in Coralville. My husband Jim and I came to the University of Iowa to start a faith-based athletic organization in 1984, and it's been a great career working with bright young student athletes. Our 3 children grew up attending Coralville schools, West High, and off to college. And we think that they have grown into some pretty amazing adults who married awesome spouses. The 2 oldest has given us the military experience, so that as parents we have sustained 4 one-year-long deployments, including 2 evacuations. Our son, who graduated from medical school at Iowa as a major in the Air Force, currently practicing as a hospital surgeon general. Our daughter and her family have a chemical-free home products business and adhere to non-GMO, organic, physically fit lifestyle practices. And our youngest son and family are on their 3rd year living in northern Iraq. They speak Kurdish and Arabic and work in relief and development to the refugee camp populations. We have nieces and nephews adopted from Liberia, El Salvador, Philippines, Texas, North Dakota Sioux, and for years we have embraced ethnicity and cultural diversity in our family. Likewise, this is what I'm getting to, that I'm at ease that Coralville is a diverse population with a small town atmosphere. Even within this group of candidates, we have different experiences and goals for our community, and I'm ready to openly listen and discuss tonight. Thank you.
Miriam?
Hi, I'm one of those people who came to law school here and just really liked it here and never left. My husband and I both grew up in Pella, Iowa, as did my sister. So we started on the southeast side of Iowa City, but as she had, her second and third kid, and we had our second kid, and Tim was working out at Tiffin as a teacher. My husband was working up at Innovative Software Engineering in the, which was in the, what's the area called? The growth technologies, whatever area, the incubator area.
Research?
Yes. Yeah, the research park. So Coralville was a very convenient place for us, and we absolutely fell in love with the school, Central Coralville here, and now my daughter's at Northwest. I'm a mediator, a lawyer, and a volunteer. I really enjoy gardening and have really enjoyed gardening with the students at Coralville Central, which has kind of inherited generations of parents who've planted more flowers and planted a vegetable garden. I'm also working on the PTO at Northwest and at Coralville Central and the district parent organization, which has really opened my eyes to the diversity of schools we have here. And one of the things I'm really concerned about as a parent and just as someone who lives in Coralville is that we have one of the schools, Kirkwood, with the highest percentage of free and reduced price lunch students. And it makes it really hard on really challenging for the teachers, because when 76% of your students are free and reduced price lunch students, that tends to correlate with having, having physical illness in the family, having mental illness in the family, having a lot of instability as to where they're living. And so that's a really big concern of mine, not just that we have affordable housing, but that we have it spread out around the city so that all the kids aren't going to one school, and then other parents are so concerned about the free and reduced price lunch numbers that they're moving their children out of that school. And, Lori can't solve this problem on our own. We have to have a fairly balanced city so that all of our schools can be balanced. Thanks.
Let's see. Is it Megan next?
Yes.
Okay. Considering I can't see any of you. That's okay. Go ahead, Megan.
Well, thank you to the League for hosting this event. Thank you to the Affordable Housing Coalition and the Coralville Food Pantry for co-sponsoring. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to those who are watching at home. My name is Megan Foster, and I am running for the Coralville City Council because serving my community has always been important to me. I'm on the board of directors for the Coralville Community Food Pantry. I'm on the city's Planning and Zoning Commission. I was a founding member of the Coralville Affordable Housing Group, and I have volunteered for numerous other community events and organizations. I'm a mother of 5 children. I'm a University of Iowa educator and a small business owner, and I am so grateful that my family has been able to put down our roots and grow and thrive here in Coralville. And my hope is that as our community continues to grow and thrive, that growth is inclusive and that we aren't leaving any of our citizens behind. I believe that community development and economic development go hand in hand, and this is reflected in my top 3 priorities for our community. I believe we should focus on sustainable economic growth and development, finding innovative solutions for affordable housing, and identifying gaps in services and amenities that our citizens want and need, and finding ways to fill those gaps. My hope is that I can continue to serve our community by being a part of the Coralville City Council, and I'm looking forward to sharing my vision for our community with you tonight. Thank you.
Tom?
Good evening. I'm Tom Gill. I'm a longtime resident of Coralville. We moved to the Iowa City area in 1952 when my dad went to dental school. I've been a dentist in this community since 1980, 37 years. I grew up in Coralville. I attended Coralville Central. I went to City High School, and then I spent 4 years in the Navy from 68 to 72. I was an electronics technician and what's called now a cyber specialist. I came back. I went to the University of Iowa, graduated in dentistry, and came back home to practice dentistry with my brother and my dad. We've been in practice since 1956 in this town, and we love this town, and we've really contributed, and we've both grown from a very small burg to a very active city. My major goals in completion, I've done almost as John Lundell and Diane, and I've been active in this council for 25 years, and there's 3 things that I want to do. I want to finish the second hospital building, and that is because we need great health care. We do have great health care, but we want to improve on that health care. And the second item is to facilitate the building of the new arena and sports facility. That is for economic development. That is for many varied things, and it's not only an arena. There's a lot of retail going on there. We are the second largest producer of sales tax in this state, and I'm very proud of that. Another thing I'm very proud of is our flood remediation. With the thanks of the legislature, our legislative bodies, our legislators are here, we have completed the flood remediation, and I don't think there's a community in the state that's done that. Thank you.
Elizabeth?
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We're going to talk a lot about the issues, but since I'm really not from Coralville, I thought it would be really good to kind of introduce myself and my background to everybody that came tonight. I was not born in Iowa. I was actually born in Miami, Florida, and I grew up there and spent my entire life there, as did my husband. I had a single mother who had not gone to college. No one in my family had gone to college. And when I was in high school, she worked and put herself through nursing school. I'm a first-generation college graduate. I double majored in history and political science in undergrad. I have master's degrees in American history with concentrations, or in history with concentrations in American and European history. And I have a graduate minor in public administration. I've worked in a variety of government capacities, local, tribal, and currently the federal government. I decided about 5 years ago that it was time to start working on advancing my career, and I started applying for jobs outside of Florida, in part because of their declining public education system. I had several job offers and ultimately decided to come to Iowa because of the public education system for my children and for myself and the proximity that I would be in working with that. I currently work with about 20,000 students per year across the state of Iowa and across the country, and I teach professional development and continuing education for teachers around the country, probably about 1,000 teachers a year. I publish and present around the country on social studies education, history, and politics. I also additionally work at a small business in Coralville that's brand new, and I really believe in what they're doing, so I work there a few hours a week. I'm a tireless activist and advocate in the community for many causes. I'm the state leader of a group called Action Iowa. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Youssef, didn't have an opportunity to introduce you before, but we are giving a 2-minute opening statement now, and you may take your turn to do it.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, everybody, and I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming tonight. My name is Imad Youssef. I have 2 doctorate degrees. My first doctorate degree in business, concentration in finance from London School of Economics. My second doctorate degree from the Agnes University in Chicago, Illinois. And I have 25 years in business experience worldwide. I work with United Nations as a consultant and financial advisor for 16 years. And also I work as Secretary General of BANAF, that is biggest branch of the African Organization Unity, specialized in upgrading the skills of the employees of bankers, insurance, and the financial institution. I'm an educator, I'm an academic researcher, and I'm working during my whole life in business consultant. And also I'm financial accounting, forensic accounting and fraud examiners for years. And I just moved to Coralville 6 years ago. And I love it. It's a very quiet area. People that are very friendly, and also they are welcoming. And I'm running for the city council because there's many areas that I need to examine it very well. The budget deficit and also the water in Coralville. And also I looking for the senior citizen to be more active in the community. I'm looking for the special center for them to upgrade their skills and to socialize. And I believe they have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge that we need to get benefit of it and utilize it. And also for the youth, I also...
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Youssef. Thank you. The first question from the League of Women Voters will be answered by, first by Lori, and then the rest of you in succession. Recently, the League of Women Voters of Iowa adopted recommendations regarding tax increment financing, or TIF, in Iowa. The study committee recommended each TIF plan identify an oversight procedure to annually evaluate each TIF use and include all related costs of the project as well as incentives awarded. The League also believes neighboring communities must be included in such an evaluation procedural process to ensure openness and transparency. How does Coralville communicate TIF project updates to its neighbors? And Lori, you go first, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, this is a 1-minute response to this.
Okay,
I'm
thanks.
timer right now.
Okay.
Just checking.
Just for those who are not as familiar, TIF increment financing has been a useful tool for driving business development here in Coralville, and now in the next couple of years, when these TIF areas in Coralville are released, we will see benefits by paying down the financing of the investment that we made through TIF. That I'm surprised a little bit to hear this question, in that I know that the state has regulated TIF in the last couple of years, so that our finance people have to send in extensive reports, and that's what I know about it. In the next 2 years, our TIF will be coming off, and then every year after that, we will be receiving those tax increment financing rewards for investing in Coralville. Thanks.
Miriam?
Hi, I agree with the League of Women Voters that there should be a lot of oversight, some independent oversight, in addition to just the City Council looking at it. And I totally agree that including all related costs of the project in one place would make it a lot easier, because currently Coralville's been taking asbestos out of buildings, demolishing the buildings, building parking lots. So it makes it really hard to figure out what's going on if you're trying to figure out how much a project costs. And I agree that we should include the neighbors. Coralville's kind of complicated because we actually have 2 school districts, and the mall TIF was a very large part of the Clear Creek Amana School District. And especially compared to the rest of the tax base, it had a very large impact on the rate everybody else was paying for their school taxes, because that money was kept for 20 years. And then we linked it over, after we finished paying off our investment in the mall, we linked it over and started spending that money in a place that wasn't even in the Clear Creek Amana School District anymore. So I really think that Coralville needs to be more careful in how it uses TIF. Thanks.
Megan?
Well, I believe that there are appropriate uses of TIF, and I think that Coralville has made some smart investments, especially as we're starting to see the decades of planning as these projects come to life. So I think that certainly we have done well. I do agree with the oversight. I think that if and when we do use TIF in the future, we should be a bit more conservative. We should make sure that, and that we should also make sure that We are vetting projects for community impact and meaningful economic impact at the local level. I cannot speak to how TIF projects are currently communicated to other communities, but I think we need to be a little bit careful. I wouldn't want to get into a situation where we would need to ask permission for projects or things that we would want to do in our community.
Tom?
Since I've been here so long, I'm an unapologetic supporter of TIF. TIF is what this community is. We have shown the way in the state of Iowa how to use TIF. Most of Des Moines and the surrounding areas, communities use TIF. It's a great tool. It's the only tool that we have to move forward. And we've used it well. And I'm sorry to say that we have oversight. There's plenty of oversight. In fact, oversight was done because of the things that Coralville supposedly had done. But again, TIF is a great thing. And the communication between communities is that I've never understood why our TIF is wrong, but another community's TIF is right because they do it right. Our TIF is fine. We do exactly what the state tells us to do. We hired the attorney originally that wrote the TIF law. So I don't understand why we have to have the oversight that you're saying about, because the oversight is already there.
Elizabeth?
Thank you. I have actually, in the last forums and on my website, have advocated for more transparency in TIF. So I agree with the League of Women Voters. I know surrounding cities have independent review of TIF that comes back and talks about the return on investment and the impact on community before the TIF is agreed on, and there is a robust community discussion. And I would like to see something similar to that in Coralville. Thank you.
Imal?
Yeah, sure. I believe TIF is an excellent tool that can help grow communities wherever it's utilized. But we need to be careful. We need to know when and where and how to use TIF. And I believe Coralville, they follow the guidelines, and I don't know why the oversight, but they follow the guidelines, they did a good job. And I believe TIF, they working very fine over here. And comparing with the other communities, Iowa City or Cedar Rapids, I believe they are within this stage. I don't see anything that they're doing very good, and that is what I believe about TIF. TIF they need to use, and when they use it in new project, they need to be cautious and they need to be careful. And they need to understand the project that they need to use it for and how they use it, and also to follow the guidelines of the rules and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Miriam, you'll go first on this question. Excuse me. Oh, Cindy, you didn't have a chance. Oh, see, I'm glad you're watching.
It's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't have enough
Thank you.
blocks up here to tell. Go ahead.
TIF in any economic development incentive creates a complex issue, right? Because a lot of stories get out there, a lot of information gets out, but it's not always communicated. So TIF in Coralville has done a nice job. We have seen the economic development that has happened over the last 40 years here in Coralville, and TIF has been a part of that. So I support what you can do with TIF. But because we hear some of these confusion about how it's affected the community, that does lead me to say we should communicate it better so that the community has a little more clear understanding of how we're using TIF to make their community together. So I support it. We should continue to use it in a serious and careful manner, and we should work on our communication.
Okay, this question comes from the Coralville Food Pantry. The pantry works to ensure that no Coralville resident, young or old, goes to bed hungry. In the last year, more than 1,000 Coralville households turned to the food pantry for weekly access to life's most basic rudiment of food. So far, in 2017, the food pantry has provided nearly 300,000 pounds of food to 2,800 Coralville residents. The food pantry relies on both private and public funding sources to continue to serve as a vital safety net for the increasing number of Coralville residents who face hunger, whether due to temporary crises, chronic adversity, or inescapable systemic issues. What role should the city of Coralville play in reducing hunger locally, and what can it do to support a much-needed private social service agency like the Coralville Community Food Pantry? And Miriam, you get to go first.
I think one place that Coralville has done an excellent job is with our recreation center, which is very close to Kirkwood and Northwest Junior High. They've provided some free meals over the summer. And then our school district, of course, does an excellent job at trying to help out these families both during the week and packing food for the weekend at times. So I'm really grateful that we live in a caring community. And I'm proud of our Coralville Food Center, and I'm glad that it's supported by the government as well. To the degree that they need help finding a new building, that's certainly something that we can help them with as individuals. And then I think as a nonprofit, it's nice to know your funding for years out and to have a reliable source of funding. And so Coralville, hopefully our Coralville City Council can be that reliable, steady funding for them. Thanks.
Megan?
Well, there are many things that I would like to do to help some of our lower income residents, but I'll focus on two that I think would have the most impact. I think that as a city council, we can focus on bringing jobs to the area that pay a living wage and treat their employees well, and we can tackle the issue of affordable housing. I can tell you that as a board member of the food pantry, the vast majority of our clients that we see in the pantry are employed and they have jobs. It's just that their jobs don't pay a living wage, or they are housing cost burdened, or in many situations it is both. So I think we can start by looking at some of those systemic issues, and we have always received wonderful support from the City Council, and I hope that our partnership with the council can continue. They've been great in helping our low-income residents.
Tom?
I fully support the food pantry. We've done quite a bit of work already with the food pantry. They used to be down by First Avenue. They're in one of our buildings now, and they've renovated, and it's a great asset. It's right next door to me. The parking is tight. When they went in, we knew that the building was too small, and it does need to upgrade. We need to find a larger building. The problem with that is if you find a larger building, you've got to find a building that's in the area. Financially, we will continue to support them. But the pantry, like many things, we start and we give them seed money and as an incubator, and we will support them. But they're going to have to carry on their own on some of the things. But they're a great activity and great thing.
Elizabeth?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say from a personal perspective that I think it's unfortunate that we live in one of the richest countries in the world, and there's people that go to bed hungry at night. And I agree with Megan and Miriam both. The rec center is wonderful, and I would love to see more free meals and snacks that can go to kids that go there after school and during the summer. But I think it's vital that we support the food pantry and looking for those high-wage jobs. I think it's unfortunate the state preempted the Johnson County minimum wage this year, and I think that we have to be leaders in the community and help our small businesses to understand that it is important that they pay a living wage so that their employers or their employees can live in Coralville. Thank you.
Amal?
Yeah, I believe food pantry, that is a great support and great sharing, that we're sharing wealth. But I think if we find training these people, the low-income families, and freeze the wages for up to 1015 or 1025. And if the local government, they working very hard to upgrade, to increase that to $15 an hour. I believe that they're going to help a lot of these families. And after school meals or free lunch, I believe all of them they can support, and I really support that, and I agree with all of my colleagues over here. Thank you.
Cindy?
All right, so I'm a big supporter of the area agencies all working together on issues like this, because we need to not only address the food bank, but also the housing issues and other issues around town. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to get bonded with our area agencies to help bring them together too. And Coralville City Council is something that can help facilitate that. So it all comes back again to business growth. I think we've heard that, and that continues to be my focus. If we can get better jobs, better pay, better incomes in the community, then we can better fund these kind of food banks for people that are in transition, and then move people out into a more sustainable income of their own. So the pantry's had good leadership, and I look to continuing their support to keep the pantry moving forward.
Lori?
Being on the city council this last 4 years has been interesting to watch the pantry go from a small unit where there were a few people who were giving their lives to that, so to speak, in a church that was very involved with that, and then having to move. And I wasn't very for them moving to the post office, simply because I didn't believe it's big enough, and that's probably true, but that's a great problem to have, to not be big enough. But the positives are, it's a beautiful, there's light in there, it's a more shopping experience for people who need the services, and they don't ask questions. They just, if you're from Coralville, you tell them how many people are in your family, and then they tell you exactly how much food you can take home. And I really appreciate all the volunteers and all the partnerships. Thank you.
The next question is from the Affordable Housing Coalition. Quality affordable housing is integral to our community's health, wellness, stability, and growth. How do you stand out from your fellow candidates on the issue of affordable housing? And what is the first step you'll take to address affordable housing in Coralville? And the first person to respond is Megan.
Well, I am actually going to just veer slightly off base with the question because I want to say that I am really pleased that this is been such a topic during this election. One of my entry points into this conversation about affordable housing was as I was a one of the founding members of the Coralville Affordable Housing Group. And our goal was to bring this dialogue to the forefront in our community because we recognized that it was something that needed to be addressed. And so I'm very pleased that we are talking about it. And I hope that these conversations continue after the election. I believe that we can come up with creative ways to address this issue in our community by facilitating partnerships with community organizations and other stakeholders to come up with creative and outside-of-the-box solutions to meet this need in our community.
Tom?
We talk about what are we going to do about affordable housing. I think we've done quite a bit. You know, everybody says, what are you doing about affordable housing? Well, we have a assistant city manager or city administrator that is putting most 40% of her time in that. And we have spent quite a bit of time and energy as a community doing that. We do not do direct subsidies. So how do you get the money to do affordable housing? You get the money by grants or getting donations. And quite frankly, I'm all for affordable housing, but the cost of the housing, the cost of the land is prohibitive. And that, are we done? I had one other, when we had a flood, we had a bill go through ECOG for purchasing property and housing for flood victims. There was not a lot in Coralville affordable enough to qualify for that. Most of Coralville's flood land, or the funding for that has gone to Lone Tree, Wapello, and other places.
Thank you, Tom. Elizabeth?
Yes, I view affordable housing as kind of a multi-pronged issue, and I think in order to provide more affordable housing, we have to also look at our transit and make sure that people have buses that can get them to and from work with robust bus schedules, especially with Sunday bus schedules, because so many of our workers work in hospitality and retail across Coralville, because that happens to be the businesses that came in on the TIF. I also think that wages are a part of that. I do support trying to figure out a way to subsidize housing through the Housing Trust. And I think it's going to be really important if we're talking about attracting people to grow our tax base. My experience in trying to move to Coralville was not only was there nothing available, I mean, essentially, but the three things that were available I couldn't afford. So I'd really like to see some alleviation for that so we can attract people to the city of Coralville and provide housing for our low-income residents.
Ahmad?
I believe affordable housing is a great topic these days, and this is the movement of the government, the federal, the local, and the non-profit organization. And I see the mortgage and rent is outpacing outpacing income growth. And I see there's the population of Coralville, they are rising, and also the vacancies of the houses over there, they're falling between 2 and 4%. And people, they are in housing crisis. And I believe affordable housings, that they can help a lot of people, but they need to look at what the issue is and how we can fix it. You know, there's a lot of steps over there. You know, there's a lot of people, low-income people, they're suffering, they're struggling, and they're applying for the affordable housings, and they fail to get it. I believe my time is over.
Cindy?
All right, so when I started this process with the council, we had a meeting with some of the city officials, and they brought us up to speed, because there's some of these things that we didn't know about, and one was around the affordable housing. And to Tom's comment, they've done a lot in Coralville to try to address some of the affordable housing. The community that I think is important, they're all important, but the Old Town area of Coralville has seen such nice renovation in the last 10 years, or for sure the last 5 years since I've been here. That kind of that old community between 1st and 10th and 1st and 2nd, and so that renovation is important. Also, I've seen the Habitat for Humanity come into the community, and I've seen them redo several houses. So just to continue to work with those kind of organizations, focus on some of the areas of the community that really do need some renovation and put some funding into that. But keeping in mind that it's the whole network, right? It's not just housing, it's fair taxes, it's reasonable utility costs, it's the community food bank, it's all the services that have to be wrapped together to really make Coralville a place that everyone can live.
Lori?
I continue to be a part of great initiatives for the city in regards for affordable housing, from programs for rehabbing, weatherizing, adding to an older home in established neighborhoods, to maximizing and including affordable homes in new construction. Seniors over 55 have more opportunities for economical housing in Coralville than ever before. And if they do choose to move or downsize, this can free up homes for young families. Workforce housing in the 5th Street project has 941,000 workforce tax credits, and the Coral Ridge apartments that are being built with 750,000 low-income housing tax credits. Various home options in Bridgewater, West Coralville, and possibly Scanlon developments give us room for growth in affordable housing. Habitat for Humanity has built 16 homes in Coralville. I support and attend meetings for the housing umbrella organization called the Housing Trust Fund Community, and recently attended the Iowa League of Cities where I explored other cities' ideas for housing. I'm willing to look at cities our size where they have had success in inclusionary zoning without shifting the burden to other homeowners. Thank you.
And Miriam?
One program I really like that Coralville has done in the past is a weatherization program, which helps low-income homeowners update their homes so that they end up paying less in energy costs. It's good for the environment, it's good for the homeowners, it's good for the whole city. I agree with Elizabeth that transit is an important part of it. And I agree that Sunday busing would be very helpful so that workers could live anywhere in town and still be able to make it to their jobs. I think one way I stand out is that I not only want there to be affordable housing, but I want it to be spread out. When you have all of your affordable housing condensed into one school district, it makes it very hard for those teachers. It makes it very hard for the police because the police start to have issues in that part of town, and they start to just have that implicit bias that, oh, it's another call from that part of town, I can guess what kind of people that is. And so it's really hard on everyone when all the affordable housing is in one part of town. Thanks.
We have a question for one of the candidates. Cindy, you mentioned affordable childcare in your opening statement. Could you please share what ideas you have to make this happen?
Okay, so there's another organization that I work with, which is the Iowa Women's Foundation, and we did a study a couple years ago across the state of Iowa and really highlighted the issue with child care across the state of Iowa. It's not just the Iowa City, Coralville community, but it's all across the state. And so we have actually been undertaking, what do we do to help communities everywhere better, first raise awareness about it and then better address it. So there's a couple models that we have found. One is up in Waterloo, where they have had 3 of the local businesses literally have come together to create a space. It started out a space for their employees' children, and now has blossomed into a larger support of the community. So we really need to reach out, and I think the work we're doing in that organization can be applied here to say what processes are out there that are really working, and how do we engage? Because businesses need to see the numbers. If you really look at the numbers of businesses through lost time, sick children, anything associated with pulling an employee out because of a child care issue, that's huge numbers and what that's costing every business. And we can put that in front of the businesses, then we can get their buy-in.
I think it only fair to allow any of the other candidates to address this issue if they would like to. So if you would like to, please let me know so that I know you want to. Miriam, you want to?
I might be a killjoy.
Okay,
so.
Well then, excuse me, so.
I would just say that is wonderful. I would just say that's wonderful.
Okay.
I'm all for that. I don't know how City of Coralville would be involved in that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other person that wants to make a statement?
I agree with Lori.
Tom?
I mean, all these things sound great, but how are you going to pay for it?
Okay. Elizabeth?
So I'm sorry, but that interest in saying we have a big
we're not going to be debating.
I just
We're not going to be debating. Elizabeth, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that that the Coralville Rec Center offers a free place for kids to go after school every day and before school too, and it's absolutely one of the best programs working with kids for a living. I know how important it is for kids to have a safe place to go with role models every day, and I think it's outstanding. And the city also offers a pretty expansive after-school program that my daughter Audrey went to, and I think that's also wonderful. And if it can be expanded at a lower cost and over the summer too, I think that's a way the city could contribute to it. But I really think the city has just made a great impact on our children in the city with those programs, and I commend them for that.
Any of the rest of you want to make a comment? Okay, go ahead.
I've actually provided childcare here in Coralville at a home childcare And it was really interesting as a lawyer to get the whole list of regulations, because as a lawyer, then you feel like you have to read all the regulations. And Coralville actually has its own extra on top regulations about parking, which I think happened because one council member lived next to a home daycare that had parking issues. And so to some degree, getting rid of over regulations like that can open it up so that more providers can provide, because as I was getting into it, somebody else was getting out of it because they were tired of being so over-regulated. So it's one of those balances, you know, you need to keep the kids safe, but you don't want to just say, you know, I'm grumpy at my neighbor because she had parking issues, and so now we're going to put a regulation on everyone.
Okay, we sort of got out of our routine. We're getting back into our routine, and Tom gets to go first on this particular question, because that's what it would have been if we didn't have that other little thing happen. But that's what happens in life. Things happen.
Can I actually comment on the child? I wanted to comment.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you wanted to.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to break
That's
the routine
my third
again.
mistake.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm not making any more. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Yes.
Megan.
Well, I feel compelled to comment because I have 5 children, and I can speak to how significant of a need this is, and how it is an economic development issue also, because again, I know how difficult it can be when you are fighting to pay your bills, you're paying for your housing and other costs, and then you have childcare on top of that. So I would hope that there would be an opportunity to have some partnerships. Maybe we could look at some grant programs, and I'd certainly be interested in hearing more about what's being done in other communities. I think it's a crucial need. We need to make sure that we are offering childcare that is safe, that our providers are educated, and that they use good judgment. And because that is going to help our local economy with worker production and some of those things that Cindy was referring to. Thank you.
Okay, Ahmad, you're the only one that didn't say anything. Do you want to say anything about childcare? Because I don't want to leave you out.
The only thing that I believe there is a good example, the Johnson County neighborhood. They have after-school programs, and I believe they do it very well. And they serving communities from different diversity. I believe the Sudanese community and also the other community. I believe they're doing very good job for I know them for years. And I believe they deserve to be thanked. And that is a good example. If we can find a way or another, you know, that we can practice it here in Coralville, that would be a great thing over here.
Thank you all. Here's another question from the audience for all of you, and we're going to start with Tom, who will have the first time to respond. If you were elected, will you work to restore commuter train service between Iowa City and Cedar Rapids, to run through and stop at Coralville and North Liberty when going in both directions?
We had a study funded a few years ago, or last year or the year before, and we're in the process of studying only Coralville, not from Cedar Rapids. I'm very familiar. I am very familiar with railroads because my wife's father was an agent for the Carnatic Railroad and the Rock Island Railroad. Passenger rail left us in 1960. And quite frankly, rail is fantastic, but we do not have the population for rail. We have trouble financing a bus system, transit system, and then when we go to rail, that compounds it greatly. So there's my answer. I'm all in favor of rail, doing some type of rail from the Coralville community. We have we've got a railroad track running through here that is excellent. I'm in favor of that.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
But that's it.
I think that when we live in a community that doesn't have buses that run on Sunday or second shift, that should probably be our priority before thinking about trains running to Cedar Rapids. And I probably agree a little bit with Tom here that we might not have a large enough population to support that, and that our energies and monies might be best used at supporting our own transit system within the city, at least for a while, until we have a population that's large enough.
Ahmad, would you like to comment?
Sure. As we notice, transit development is a key point to meet a variety of environment, economic, and social goals. And I believe people that are suffering, most of the people, they don't have cars, they need to go to work. And Sundays, I also with Alibis, Mariam, I believe she mentioned that. Sundays, that's a big issue. And I believe if the local government, they re-examine the transit system and the running bus on the second shift or on Sundays, and also the bus shelters. I see that we are in the Midwest, very cold weather. We don't have we have a lot of bus stop over there, but we don't have bus shelters. People that are suffering. Oh, sorry.
Nobody can hear you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. You know that Sundays, that we need the local government to re-examine the transit. It's very great issue. It's a very important issue. People, they need to work. My time is over. Sorry.
Thank you. Cindy, make sure that you are close enough to the microphones because the people in the back are having trouble hearing you, and perhaps the taping would not be sufficient if we are not speaking into the microphones.
Okay, thank you, Linda. So I support rail in general. Now, that doesn't mean that you just go full bore. There is a lot of work that will have to go into it, and it would have to include more communities than just Coralville. It is absolutely true that Coralville in itself can't support it, but it has to be Cedar Rapids, North Liberty, Iowa City. We have to look at the whole corridor to be part of that. So we can't overlook that, but we can't overlook other options too. It's true that the bus systems, I'm real big on better bike network. But we have street traffic issues in Coralville. We have issues getting up to Cedar Rapids. We have issues with the way what we're trying to carry today in terms of the automobile traffic. So we have to look outside the box, and we can't limit our thinking. So rail is something we should look at. It might be long term, but we should still look at it.
Lori?
I'll use my 1 minute to say that I agree with everything that's been said. I also have a great concern because of the road work that's going to be going on in the next 5 years with Interstate 80 and 380. And we are going to have to look at some creative measures in order to help all of us get to where we need to go. There's going to have to be a lot of patience and creativity in carpooling or, maybe light rail. I don't know that we can get that all together that soon, but there can be a lot of good ideas that we need to put into practice the next few years. Thanks.
Miriam?
Certainly if somebody is going to give us a grant to put in a rail line between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City, that would be great. It's good if we have a good working relationship with the county and with Iowa City so that we can partner on projects like this. To have people on our board that are receptive and friendly to work with, I think is a great deal. But I agree with what people say here that on a rational, practical level, in the near term, it's probably best to expand our bus system with more hours, with Sundays, with bus shelters, because this is Iowa and it's really cold outside or really hot outside a great deal of the time. And it would be really nice if we could work with Johnson County, as well as continuing to work with Iowa City and hopefully working with North Liberty to set up bus systems so that students can get to their schools and back. We can't directly compete with the school buses, but there's certainly a need for students to have activity busing of some sort, and if the Johnson County can step in and help provide some of those buses between cities, that would be really wonderful.
And Megan?
Well, transportation is certainly another area where we see a connection between community development and economic development. And I agree with everything that has been said so far in support of rail. I think that that would be fantastic if we could have that in our community. And I think with regard to our other systems, funding is always the challenge. Not just the funding, the dollars for the bus system in Coralville, but transportation funding in general is somewhat complicated. So I think that what we can continue to collaborate with other municipalities, with the county and find ways to identify gaps in service areas and fill those gaps so that we can continue to keep our communities connected and get our workers to and from their jobs in an easy and a convenient way.
This question we will begin with Elizabeth. What is your background or experience working with or reaching out to diverse communities?
I actually came from working for a Native American tribe for about 7 years, and I was conducting oral histories in that community. And there was a lot of unique issues that were there. But additionally, I lived in a very large urban city my entire life in Miami, Florida. I also lived in Jacksonville, Florida, and Naples, Florida. And so I grew up in diverse neighborhoods, and that's basically the life that I've known. It was a little bit shocking coming to Iowa, to be perfectly honest. Not having access to things I was used to, like food and music and different things. But I'm used to working in diverse neighborhoods and really have a deep appreciation for them, and especially working with children from diverse backgrounds, because that's where I started working, was in inner city schools, and attended inner city schools myself. Thank you.
Imad?
Diversity is a great thing, and myself, I'm coming from different culture, and I'm coming from Middle East. Different culture, different background, and when I came over here, I shocked because the lifestyle over here is completely different, and the rhythm is very fast. And diversity is a great thing, that people culture, how they thinking, and and you need to get inside to know them very well. And I believe. In University of Iowa, they did a great job because they have a different international student over here, and people, they are familiar with diversity, with their language, their culture, their food, and I believe I'm very grateful for. And also I work with different countries. Each country, they have the different dialogue, they have the different language, the different food, and I enjoy to know their cultures. Thank you.
Cindy?
All right, so I grew up in rural Iowa. I've lived in a variety of places around the Midwest, so kind of been exposed to a lot. My 3 daughters actually all have part Native American heritage. So I've worked with a lot of different groups. Also, in corporate, I traveled internationally quite a bit. So we did do some training, corporate training, before we went international, of how you go into another culture and into another community and interact with that community based on their cultures, not based on my cultures. So that was very interesting training. And really, the diversity we have in Coralville, that's such a powerful thing in terms of what that could do for small business in Coralville. We could use that cultural diversity to bring, whether it's restaurants, whether it's retail, whatever we can use, that's very powerful here, and I think we should utilize that.
Lori?
I think I mentioned that in my opening statements about my personal family life. Also, we work with athletes, and in the summers go on tours overseas. And just 2 days ago, I was involved with Chinese that came here to City Hall and are looking at starting businesses here, and I've actively attended the Congo gathering at the Coralville Library as a representative of the City Council, and also our church, Parkview, hosts the biennial Somali. Am I done? Okay. Okay. I'm all nervous now. Somali gathering. There's like 250 that come, and we help with entertainment and babysitting their children. I could go on and on, so thanks.
Miriam?
Hi. As a lawyer and a mediator, I've been really fortunate to be able to get some really quality training on challenging white supremacy. And it's kind of funny because we like to think we're better than everybody else here in Johnson County, but actually we have really, really bad disproportionate minority numbers here. They're more likely to get arrested, they're more likely to get prosecuted, they're more likely to be found guilty, they're more likely to get a longer sentence. all those little bits that kind of add up to really make life unfair for a lot of our Coralville residents. As a lawyer, I worked with the disabled and with China moms, some of them literally straight from Chicago, in part because then their family and their support network is back in Chicago, and in part because they have different norms. And so it was really interesting to work with them and to become more a part of that community. And then with we have a restorative justice program here in Johnson County, and what we've ended up doing a lot of the times is working with minority youth and police officers and trying to build a better relationship so that instead of making each other more angry, they can get along better the next time they interact.
Megan?
Well, I just have to say that I am really grateful that I am raising my children in such a diverse and community that also values inclusion. And it's one of the things that I've been the most grateful for, is that when my children go to school, they are interacting with other children from all over the world. And that's very different from the way that I grew up. I grew up in a small rural Iowa town. And so I am very grateful for the perspective that my kids have had. And I think that they're learning about inclusion through osmosis, from being around their friends and interacting with people from a variety of cultures and backgrounds. And as I said, that's something that I really value about our community.
And Tom?
Well, I'm an old guy, and my diversity training was on the job. I was in the Navy. We had my boot camp class was 60 of us, and 4 of us were white. And 10 of them had just burnt down Newark, and they had their choice of going into the Navy or going to jail. So I spent 3 months with these fellas, and we got along fine. My second thing with diversity is my best friend in dental school was Hispanic. His wife was the head of affirmative action for the University of Iowa. And his roommate in college was a fellow called Kenny Salazar, who is from the head of the Department of the Interior, the Attorney General of Colorado. And Kenny and I and Mike, we traveled through Colorado, and I traveled as a white guy with a bunch of Hispanics, and that's my diversity. So that's all I can talk about.
In respect to the amount of time we're allotted for this forum, there are several questions that were not addressed, and I encourage you, if you would like to talk to the candidates after they're here, or contact them in another method to get their view on those questions, please do that. Before the 2-minute closing statements that the candidates are allowed to make, and we will start with Ahmad, I'd like to say that this is a very difficult position for all of you to be in, to have questions asked of you that you were not necessarily knew exactly what they were going to be, though I see some of you had lots of categories of questions. And I think you did a very good job, and I appreciate your candor with us. And so let's start with closing statements, which can last for 2 minutes, and we will start with Ahmad.
As I mentioned, I have a passion to serve others and desire to be a representative voice for people in standing up for their ideas and concerns. My 2 doctorate degree and the MBA education has given me the knowledge skill to analyze the many issues that come before me. I understand, I know what is the best for our local and large businesses as a result of 25 years in business world. I have served in various international board committees and council. From my experience, I have learned how to listen, to respond, and to act in response to the concern of the resident of Coralville. I hope to bring my years of business experience and a straightforward mindset to Coralville City Council. If I get elected, I'm very good. I'm specialized in accounting, and the only thing that I'm going to do is just to examine the budget and to see what the issues for budget deficit and how we can fix it. And I worked for years and years in accounting, and especially in accounting, forensic accounting and fraud examiners. And I believe I would be a great asset to the city council to have one. He has the knowledge, he has the experience in accounting field. And I have built, plus the academic degree, I have the resignation, I have the CPA, and I have the PMP, and also I work years and years with a long, big companies, and I believe I can provide something to the city council. Thank you.
Cindy?
Well, first, say thanks to Linda and to the League of Women Voters for allowing us to come out tonight, and thanks to you all for coming out and listening to us. So, again, my goals for running for office, one is to promote, financial stability and business development in Coralville that will lend itself to families who want to live here. They don't live here because it happens to be where they landed. They live here because they want to be part of Coralville. I also want to see support for Coralville by promoting affordable housing and affordable childcare. And I want a community that has an active lifestyle through the trail system and the bicycles and the friendly community that we can have in our outdoor spaces. So I'd like to use my business background, both small and large, to help make those things come true. So running a city is a complex business. It's not simple. It's got a lot of pieces that all have to be managed. So you have to make some very difficult decisions sometimes. And I think my background, my business background, lends me to, being able to look at and understand those decisions that we're going to have to make. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your support.
Lori?
Well, I place a high value on public safety with a star-rated police force and volunteer fire department. The cleanliness and upkeep of businesses, citizens' yards, and public areas of town show community pride. And the city council's job is to set policy and ordinance. Our water sewer rates are lower than neighboring towns, and our taxes have remained stable for years. In regard to financial practices, last year the staff and council designed and approved 4 written policies, which are debt policy, revenue policy, economic development, and fund balance. The infrastructure of Coralville is receiving upgrades and expansion as we grow. Widening First Avenue and Coral Ridge Avenues, adding roads and roundabouts and stoplights where necessary, as well as refreshing streets and sidewalks on a yearly rotation, finishing the flood mitigation with stormwater improvements and expanding water facilities. Economic development is at the height of importance as new business and business growth creates solid paying jobs which keep our community thriving. And the Oakdale Research Park is ready and waiting for innovation and growth. I stand in support of the Iowa River Landing with its Iowa Arena, University of Iowa Hospital Clinic expansion, the Car Museum, and sports elements. The Coralville Comprehensive Community Plan which I was on the steering committee, took a year to complete, and in 2015, the City Council and staff approved it. Each area of the city has been covered in the community plan. Now, that doesn't mean that there is development everywhere, but I am confident that each area of the city will develop over many years according to the needs of the community. I want to see seniors, young families, recent graduates, and all those in between continue to enjoy the services they have grown to expect, as well as find economic security. Thank you for giving me time. Thanks.
Miriam?
It really is hard to get everything into your 1 minute.
You have 2 minutes, hon. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, now I have 2 minutes. I wanted to give a huge congratulations to our Coralville Police Department, actually, because they have a better reputation than North Liberty or Iowa City for not tolerating racism among the cops, period. And I'm glad that with our new chief, Chief Shane Crone, we're continuing that they take it very seriously, and they do want to have a community relationship where they work together and work in partnership with everybody here in Coralville. So as a mediator and a lawyer, I think I have a lot of background that will be helpful on the city council. As a mediator, what I do is help people listen to each other, help people communicate more clearly, and help people work together instead of working against each other. Oftentimes, there are ways where you can try and go for a win-win-win situation. I think I'm more progressive than some of our past Coralville City Councils have been, but on the other hand, I'm also really fiscally responsible, and so I think that that would be helpful. In addition to being fiscally responsible and not taking on huge amounts of debt just for commercial development, I want Coralville to be very accessible, to be walkable, to be environmentally friendly and sustainable. And that's another area where I think Coralville really can improve, is on making sure all of its buildings are handicapped accessible so that everybody in Coralville can enjoy. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions afterward. And I think another strength of mine is that I have a lot of experience on, and a lot of friends and a lot of experts that I know on supporting the environment. And I think that that's going to become more and more important as the effects of global warming are now upon us now instead of off in the distant future. So rain gardens, drought planning, that sort of thing is going to become more and more important. And I really hope our flood protection works, because I think we're in for more floods. So we need to do what we can do here in Coralville to encourage a bus system, to encourage a rail system, so that we can help out.
Thank you. Megan?
So over the course of the last several months, I have spoken with hundreds of Coralville residents, and these conversations have affirmed what I already know and love about Coralville, and that is that we are a warm and welcoming community. And I believe that this is one of our greatest community traditions, and my hope is that we can maintain that spirit as our community continues to grow and change by making sure that our growth is inclusive. And I believe that we can accomplish this by understanding the ways that community development and economic development go hand in hand, by finding ways that we can generate sustainable economic growth and development, by finding innovative solutions for affordable housing, and by identifying services and amenities that our citizens want and need. My hope is that I can continue to serve our community by being a part of the Coralville City Council. And I would like to thank the League of Women Voters. I'd like to thank the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition, the Coralville Community Food Pantry for hosting this event. Thank you to all of you who were in attendance tonight and to those who are watching at home. And I would really appreciate your vote on or before November 7th. Thank you.
Tom?
Yes, and I echo that. I thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Food Pantry and the Affordable Housing Coalition. The biggest challenge facing our community is to pay down the debt, and we are doing that, and that will continue. And why am I running? My goals for the next 4 years will be the extension of our successful and mutually beneficial partnership with the University of Iowa for another clinic facility on the Iowa River Landing, development of the Iowa Arena, the Iowa Fitness and Sports Performance Institute to strengthen an appeal of Coralville as a sports, hospitality, and entertainment destination, and reduction of the city's debt. With a strong local economy and the quality of place, Coralville will continue to be the growing and vibrant community I love. Thank you.
And Elizabeth?
Thank you. I was first at the last forum, and I'm last at this one.
There you go.
Thank you, everyone, for having us. You know, I'm different in that Coralville is a new home for us, and we are very blessed to become first-time home buyers this year, something that I was never sure would ever happen in my lifetime. I grew up as a poor child and like I said, became a first-generation college graduate. And so thinking that there's people that work in Coralville that can't afford to live here it breaks my heart. And I would like to see more equity in how we house people and how we get them to work through transit and how we fight for higher wages for them. My daughters go to school here now. We've been here for nearly 5 years, and I continue to work in different parts of the community and will continue to do so even if I'm not elected, but thought that if I was elected, it would give me a better opportunity and could amplify some of the voices of the people that I have also met who want buses on Sundays and who need affordable housing options. I've met people who were on their way out moving to other cities because they could not continue to afford rent in Coralville, which means relocating their children in the middle of the school year. And I know as an educator, that's an extremely difficult position to be in as a family. I am the new Coralville. I'm the one that you guys talk about attracting young professionals coming in with high-paying jobs and buying houses. That's us. And so I look forward to growing our roots here and being here in Coralville. And it's been a wonderful city for my family, and we're very happy to call it home. Thank you.
Thank you to the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition, to the Coralville Food Pantry, and to my co-league members who have been so helpful this evening in assisting with the production of this forum. We couldn't do it by ourselves, and we've had not only great candidates here to share their thoughts with us, but we've had an attentive and responsive audience. And we have people hopefully watching at home. If not now, they'll be watching the broadcast when it is rebroadcast. And then we have our great guys in the back that are taping all of this and keeping us on schedule, the video cast individuals. I'd like to remind you that the views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, and that sponsorship of the forum is not an endorsement of any candidate or any of their positions. Please remember that November 7th is almost here, and that's the day that we vote next Tuesday. Take a friend, take a coworker, take a family member. The more, the merrier, okay? And the more people go, the higher our percentage of people who will be involved in citizen participation in government. Thank you all, and good night.